Well, welcome everyone to our Cprime Elabor8 Meetup. Today is Wednesday, the 6th of March. And my name's Erin Vassallo. I'm Operations Manager of the Cprime Elabor8 Academy, for those who don't know me already. And I'll be hosting the event this evening. I'm starting today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So this evening or this morning, depending on where you're joining us from, Alex Gray and Samantha Davis will be presenting on the topic Beyond Traditional Learning, Discovering the Future of Education. Following the presentation, we'll have an interactive Q&A session. So throughout the presentation, feel free to pop questions in the Zoom Q&A, on the Menti Q&A, or just if you want to ask your questions at the end, feel free to hold on to them and raise your hand in the Q&A section of the meetup. So let's get started. Alex Gray, our first presenter today, is a dynamic certified Scrum trainer and leader in lean and agile practices with a rich 25-year tenure in technology and 15 years in agile transformations. As a seasoned educator, Alex brings a wealth of knowledge to his Scrum Alliance and IC Agile courses, adeptly preparing professionals for roles including Scrum Master and Product Owner. His expertise spans across various sectors, including finance, healthcare, gaming, and telecommunications, where he has been instrumental in crafting bespoke training and educational pathways. At Cprime, Alex champions the lean agile practice, curating unique agile adoption strategies that resonate with organizational context and drive extensive business agility. And also introducing our other panel member for today, Samantha Davis, head of Elabor8's Academy. Sam is an experienced agile consultant, coach, and trainer who works with and empowers teams to deliver value and respond to change. She takes a pragmatic approach to change, tailoring her approach to suit the context. She believes that uplifting the capability of individuals, teams, and leaders is a catalyst to unleash true business value. Over to you, Alex.
Hey, thank you so much, Erin. Welcome, everybody. That was a great introduction. I love that. It made me sound awesome. I'm a person from the UK, so it's currently just 7:10 in the morning for me, and I hear we've got some people from Australia and Singapore and Canada as well. So Canada's like yesterday, isn't it? In the evening the day before, and so there's some great international representatives here. So I look forward to hearing some of your experiences and your questions as we go through the meetup. So there's sort of three topics we want to cover today. First of all, we'll talk about what are the learning needs of our people. Then we'll have a look at organizations and what the organizations need out of learning. We'll bring that all together, and then we'll finish off the session with some Q&A with myself and Sam, and hopefully some great questions from you all as well. Shall we move along to our first? So we've got our first poll for you. So if you could use Menti, that would be great. I think you're allowed to put in multiple responses, up to 3. You don't have to put in 3 responses, but if you could, that would be great.
So the code's on the top of the screen, if you can see that. Go to menti.com, put in 852493337, and then your answers will appear on the screen.
Let's see what comes up. We'll just give it a minute or so. So the question is, what are people's preferred learning styles? Learning with peers, visual, workshops, tutorials, ad hoc, on-demand videos. Love it. Being able to practice bite-sized, on the job. Some good things coming along here. And I'm really pleased some of these are aligned with what we're going to be talking about. So that's great. Awesome. On the job seems to be front and center there, doesn't it? A few people must have said on the job learning. That's interesting. Awesome. Well, let's just take a few seconds to have a look through that. So there's some similarities with some of the things we're seeing. There's a few about visual learning. There's a few about on the job and workshops, engaging, gamification. Some great stuff there. And there's a message in the chat too. Yeah, online video or on the job. Awesome. Some great responses. I almost want to capture that screen. Bear with me for a second so I can have a look at it as we're going through. All right, that's great. So look, some really awesome stuff there. And I'm going to summarize it on a slide. And actually, a lot of the things that you've mentioned there actually really resonate with what I'm going to be speaking about today. So these are just some of the learning styles that we tend to see in people. The first one there is kinesthetic. So probably a fancy word, but it really means people like to be able to touch and feel and do things. So I noticed in that word cloud there was things like workshops and things like that. So that ability to test things out, try things out, that's really important. And some people like that style of learning. You've got social learners, people who like to be able to chat to other people and discuss ideas and be able to bounce off each other and be able to talk to each other. So getting people together could be a great way of learning. Visual learners, learning through pictures, drawing things, just being able to see things can be a great way of learning. And again, that came up quite a lot in that word cloud. Sometimes people are oral listeners. Orals, you're going to be able to listen to something, listen to a blog or a podcast or a video. You've got there's loads of platforms out there for listening to books and things like that. Again, it's a learning style that some people like. Some people like to learn by themselves, solitary. I just want to be able to sit down and do learning by myself. Best way I can learn is to slowly absorb it in my own time, in my own space. Other people might be logical learners. We like to try and challenge things and have data to help us figure things out. And finally, the other one I've got on here is verbal learners. So verbal learners tend to be people that like to talk about things or read things as well. And I don't think we're saying that you only have one learning style. I think people might just have preferences. And when we're designing and building learning, we probably need to make sure we're thinking about balancing all of those things. I know for myself, I like being able to have the social learning, talking to people. I'm not a great reader. So actually going away and reading things is not the best thing for me. I'm great at buying books, but the things I flick through are for the diagrams and the pictures. And I get more information from looking at those. I also personally really don't get on with podcasts and things like that. If I've got noise in my ears, actually my brain's gone somewhere else. I'm not engaged. So things like just listening to things don't work for me personally. So I've just seen something. It might be possible in the future to just download things into your brain. It's a great call out. I'm sure Elon Musk's got these chips where you're going to be able to do that in the future. We might just be able to buy a new knowledge pack in the future and plug it into our brains. Maybe we'll get there one day. But so my message here is people have different learning styles, learning preferences that they feel most comfortable learning with. If we might move on to our second poll. Here we go. So with that all in mind, what do you think learners want from a modern learning solution? The days of the 3-4 day training class, getting everyone together, they worked. But what do people want from a modern learning system, modern learning styles? They're effective, easy to understand, engaging, bite-sized, being able to control the pace themselves. Yeah. enables those different preferences. Engaging, not boring. No, we don't like boring training. Or boring learning, should I say. It's not just training. Ooh, we've brought AI in. Interesting. Easy to digest. Effective. Yeah. That's an interesting point. Effectiveness and how we might measure the effectiveness of learning. Topic we might talk about later, I guess. Nice. So to summarize some of these things here, it's got to be interesting. We're thinking about easy, engaging. I see in the chat, customized maybe to your own world. Easy to digest, not boring, fast, bite-sized, engaging, and AI. I don't know if that means use AI to learning. Well, we can discuss later, can't we? Use AI to do the learning, leverage AI in your learning, or just use AI to replace us so we don't need to learn. I don't know. I'm sure that's not what we mean. Awesome. Some great stuff on here. Oh, something else coming up. AI has come front and center again. Practical, applicable. Applicable's come up there twice. So being able to apply your learning. Awesome. Well, thank you. If we move on one slide, I feel like someone asking presenter to move slides along. So look, this is just a summary of some of those sorts of things you've just been talking about. Of course, we want our learning to be able to leverage those different learning styles that we've just looked at. So it's got to be a blend of different learning styles. We probably want to enable people to learn when's the right time for them. I always remember back a couple of years ago delivering some training classes for a customer. They'd come along and they bought, I can't remember what course it was, may have been a CSM or something like that. But they didn't then start trying to use it for 6 months. And by the time they got around to trying to implement Scrum, they'd all forgotten what they'd learned on the course. So having learning at the right time for you in your context at the right time for you to start using that learning is really, really valuable. I've added here, potentially outside office hours and things like that. People sometimes like to learn at different times of the day. Some people might like, right, I'm going to get up and learn something new. Some people might want to do it as part of their day-to-day work. Others might be happy sitting in the evening and reading something or listening to something. We still want to have those workshops. We talked about making, them interesting, engaging, and instructor-led still. So there's still some real value in having an expert instructor for the learners to be able to ask questions, to get experience from, and challenge and ask those what if questions that are really what you want to get to when you're learning. It's all very well and good teaching people, this is how you do X, Y, Z. But people want to try and challenge that and understand it and put it into their context. And they need to be able to speak to some kind of expert, mentor or teacher. You all said bite size on that previous one. Yeah, I'm a certified Scrum trainer. I do 2-day classes. There's still a demand for it. But I think the modern direction where we're heading is smaller, bite-sized learning at the right time. And it's all very well and good doing that learning, but you want to be able to try out these new things. Like I said, there's no point having 6 months gaps between your learning and trying something. You want to be able to do that straight away. Try it in a classroom, then go and maybe try it on your work. Come back and feedback and see how well that worked. Other things on here, people might want feedback on how well they're using those new skills and trying things out. I've put on here, being able to demonstrate your experience through demonstrating, but not necessarily through exams. Exams might be good to knowledge check at a point in time. It's great. Yeah, I've passed an exam, but actually making sure that you're using that learning and that you've understood it is more for me on the job type thing that you might want to assess. And ultimately, we want to equip our people with the right skills at the right time in the right way for them to deliver the value that we want them to do in our organization, but also fulfill their desire to learn new things. Awesome. Let's move on, if we may, to the third and final, I think, of our three polls we're going to be running. So We've talked about the perspective of the people that are in the learning. What about the organizations themselves? What does your organization want to achieve from a modern learning solution? So this is from the other perspective. What do companies, organizations, businesses want to get out of modern learning solutions? Future change, capability uplift, certification. That's an interesting one. I find certification can be, some organizations really want it. They want to certify their people and give them that credit that they've achieved something. Other organizations are not so interested in certification. They just want the knowledge. I think giving people the recognition for the things they've learned it can only be a good thing. Other things on here: long-lasting, cost-effective, tailored, reliable, supports the development we're doing, scalable, adapting to change, rewarding, a faster return on investment, being able to define the goal. Nice. Ooh, more things coming. You think you've just understood the word cloud and then it changes again. You have to adapt. Cost effective is coming up front and center there, isn't it? There seems to be a few people that have said something about the cost effectiveness of learning. That's quite interesting. I like that. Actionable, context specific to organization. So that customized and specific seems to be there a few times too. Awesome. Rewarding. Utilizing the skills, support and development. Nice. Cost effective, again, still front and center. Awesome. Shall we move along and have a look at our next slide? So again, this is just a sort of a summary of some of those sorts of things. Of course, our organizations want to teach people the skills and capabilities they need for this particular organization to achieve their goals and objectives. Of course, organizations want to engage people and meet all of those different learning styles. They want to create a learning environment that people in your organization enjoy being part of, and it's fun and valuable and so on. Of course, we want ever-changing needs in your organization and the ever-changing needs of the people to be recognized. And this is just agile mindset, really. We might create a learning solution that works for today, but the world might change and we might need to adapt it very, very quickly. AI is a classic example of that. 12 months ago, I don't know that we would have been talking so much about AI in organizations, let alone in learning. Now it's table stakes. Everyone's got to be aware of AI, how we embed that into our organization or even into our learning. Just helping people understand how you write prompts for an LLM model. It's table stakes now. Anyway, building in to your organization this mindset of empiricism, customer centricity, learning, innovation, experimentation, just generally building in this learning mindset that we want to create in an organization. People might also want to know, I've learned this, what would be next for me? What might be next on my learning journey? And you might use the terms journeys, pathways, academies. They're all trying to show the learner, this is the direction that you could go. You might even want to put optionality in there. People might choose, well, I've got to this part of learning. Now I've chosen to specialize in something else, and give them options in their learning journey. Ultimately, what we really, really want to do in an organization is create an environment that is satisfying everybody's unique desire to learn new things. And if you're investing in learning for your people, they're going to feel like they're being invested in, and that's going to create an environment where you retain those experts, the talent in your organization. people feel like they're growing and learning, they're more likely to stay in an organization. It could even help with attracting new talent to the organization. I've recently myself been involved in some recruitment for our organization. And we're very lucky, we're a learning part of the organization. So we can offer people access to all sorts of different learning. And when we're doing the interview and we say, well, you've got all of our learning portfolio available to you, people are, that's awesome. So just having that ability to give people the ability to learn is really, really valuable to attract and retain people in your organization. And of course, people are the power. Without people in your organization, you don't get anywhere. And generally, we just want to encourage a learning mindset, learning culture into the organization. Michelle, you've a nice comment there in the chat. Yeah, you might want to see from an organization's perspective as well, metrics on how this is helping, and do we have like an employee net promoter score that shows the direction that learning is helping with? Are we improving our employee satisfaction? Are all of their learning desires being met? And I guess ultimately, measures wise, what an organization is going to be thinking about: employee happiness. Are they happy? Are we able to deliver our value more effectively through it as well? Awesome. So that's my summary there of learning needs of organizations. So bringing this all together, there's often talked about this 10-20-70 model to learning, where 10% of learning comes from training classes. And the training classes are great because you get to learn new things, you get to try them out in a classroom, but it's not the whole part of learning. We want to expand that out a bit further. The next part, the 20% of learning, comes from social learning, being able to take what you may have learned in a classroom and talk to people and try things out, bring it to a community, be able to chat with other people in a social group. And a lot of learning comes from that social side of learning as well. But as you can see, that's only then 10 and 20, that's 30% of learning. The majority of learning actually comes from being able to experience things and try things out and do things on the job. So for me, a great learning solution's got to balance those things. Yet there's value in the training, the educating part, but we need to create the environment for people to socially learn, and more importantly, apply things and put them into real work and do them on the job. And that arcs right back round to some of the things that you mentioned right at the beginning. On the job learning, really, really valuable. So if we go to the next slide. So this is something we designed. We call these the different parts, the different phases of learning. People want to go through discover, practice, and apply. Discover tends to be sort of the learner-led stuff. So the videos, the e-learning, the being able to read, the listening to podcasts. And my experience is we want to keep that quite short. I think if we put too much value into all of that sort of digital learner-led learning, people get a bit overwhelmed by it all and then don't engage with it all. So really short, learner-led learning, allowing people to discover some things about the topics that they're learning. I would normally use this for sort of low-level Bloom's taxonomy, and Bloom's taxonomy is a scale for learning effectiveness. But where you're thinking about, I just want people to know that there's these options, or to be able to understand that these things exist. It's that kind of knowledge and understanding level that I would create digital content and put into learner-led learning. And that would be my discover learning. The next thing I would refer to then is practice. And this is the workshops. This is the instructor-led learning element. This is where we would have short workshops. I'm talking 90 minutes, 2 hours. You get people together on a particular topic and get them to practice something in a safe space. You can use exercises, you can use simulations, You can use whiteboards and, you know, anything you want in a workshop to enable people to practice something in a safe space. We're not doing this on their real work. We're creating a, you know, classroom learning, and gives the people the ability to then start asking the instructor those what if questions. Again, I'd keep these short. I wouldn't be thinking, you know, 2-3 day training classes. You could do that if that's what works for your organization, but I'd prefer to see these as short interactive workshops. The final one going there then is the apply. And this is then the ability to take what has been learned through the learner-led discovery, what has been practiced in the instructor-led workshop, and being able to apply this to your context, to your work. We might set people like assignments, right? You go away, come back in 2 weeks and try out this new skill, this new technique, and feed back to us how well that worked. And we'll see whether it worked and whether we can help you learn some more. So for me, this is the important thing. This is getting people to start applying that new knowledge to their work. And finally, underneath, we talk about a toolkit. And for me, this is where the social learning would come in. This is where we would put in things like office hours or communities of practice or coaching support. It's creating that element of social learning backed up by some tools, some resources, and you know, examples and things like that. So this is the way we think about our learning. Discover is learner-led, keep it short. Practice is instructor-led, again, short workshops. Apply is then taking that knowledge and trying it on the real work. And it should all be supported by social learning through different tools, like I say, communities of practice, for example, or coaching support. Awesome. And then you could take that one step further and you could start designing learning journeys for your people. You might go through, you know, stages. People might do their first level of learning on a particular skill or role, depending on how you want to structure your learning. You might want to give them, you know, internal badges. You might create your own Elabor8 badge of completing base camp for a particular skill, just to give them that recognition. And also, once they've completed that, they can then decide, do I want to go on and learn more about this skill, or do I want to pivot and learn something different? So we could create a journey for our people and create that visual learning pathway for people. And let's go to our last slide, because I feel like I've talked lots and I want time for Q&A. So summarising this all together, people's learning needs are ever evolving, so we've got to be adaptive. We need to create the new skills that we need for organisations. We've just mentioned things like AI come along. We need to be able to adapt and add that in to our learning journeys. Of course, those solutions need to have that blended approach to satisfy all of those different skills that people are looking for in different learning styles. And we want to drive into our organisations a continuous learning culture as well. There you go. That was my last piece.
Thanks, Alex.
No worries. I'm not sure whether I kept the time or not.
No, it was really insightful, and it was great to see that a lot of the topics in the word clouds tied back to a lot of what we've been internally talking about at Cprime Elabor8 and what we're seeing in the market. Right, so let's have a chat about a few things that have emerged from today's topics. So, Alex or Sam, how do you see AI contributing to learning experiences in the future? Or already?
Already. AI seemed to come front and center on some of those word clouds, didn't it?
Mm.
Yep. It's a topic.
Go on, Sam. You go first.
I was gonna say, it's a topic of the moment. Everyone's talking AI everywhere you go. We've been experimenting ourselves with using AI in terms of how can it support post-training. So how can you use AI to actually help embed the learning? So after someone's come to the classroom, they've had 2 days with Alex or someone like Alex, and then how do you actually help them apply that to their work and use it as a practice. And we've been playing with some tools that we're developing as well to help with that. So that's one way that we're doing it. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, 100%. I think if you think about that toolkit, that underneath thing, people can go away and learn new things. Then they can have the ability to use an AI tool to then help them understand how to apply things. So, you know, I'll pick an example. I've learned how to do prioritization. Maybe they could ask an AI, right, I've got these things, what might be a good way of prioritizing? And maybe it can give them some insight into, you know, what options they've got. It could even, you know, feed in a product backlog to an AI machine, and it might help you order it somehow if you give it enough information. If you want to put stuff into that that chatbot, it's not private.
I had an interesting one the other day. I got targeted by LinkedIn Learning for a particular, very specific micro course. And listening to this micro course, I think all of the content was generated by ChatGPT, and I think the video was made by Synesthesia. So I think it was a completely AI generated course that I got micro targeted by LinkedIn Learning the other day.
Hey, that's interesting. Yeah. And as a comment in the chat GPT is really great at summarizing something. So maybe if you've been given a learning deck, you could put it into chat GPT and say, summarize this in bullet points for me. And it would be pretty cool at doing that sort of stuff.
The modern form of footnotes.
Yeah, you're right. But you're right as well, Sam. There are tools to help create the learning as well. So you could use AI to help create content and create videos based on it. My gut feeling is, from what you're saying, though, it was obvious that had been done.
In that case, it was, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, AI will help create you a structure. You still probably then would want to refine and put a human element into it as well, and make it not look like it's gone, here's something, here's some bullet points, here's a summary, which is what I always see from ChatGPT.
So changing tact a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you balance structured learning pathways with the need for flexibility and adaptability in a rapidly changing work environment?
How do you balance structured learning pathways with the need for flexibility
in rapidly changing work environments?
Yeah, that's a cool question. So structured learning is helpful because it gives people a view of the journey that they might want to go down, and that can be helpful. But you're right, people constantly need to, you know, pivot, learn new things and so on. So I'd be looking for, you know, our learning management systems or whatever environment you're using in an organization to be able to create you more of a network of learning. So it's, yeah, there's a pathway, but you want to get to something, and you might want to say, well, now I'm here, what other learning options have I got? And for me, it's a bit more of a network of learning rather than a structured pathway. And it's constantly changing, as we've said. So, you know, we might want to introduce a new topic. Maybe something's happened in your organization and you need to do a new thing. You might create a new node of learning in that network that you can then message to people and say, right, we've now enabled this new thing. You might want to learn about it. So, yeah, I think of it more of as network.
I personally think a pathway gives you an idea of where you can go, because often if you ask someone, oh, what learning do you want to do? They go, oh, what's an option? What's available? What can I do? And giving them that pathway can help them see what all the options are rather than starting from scratch. So you can use it as a way to support actually that journey, to really help people understand, how can I get to that next level? Where do I want to go? What does it look like? But it doesn't have to tie them down to that, as you say. They can explore the different paths. They can come back. They can build up that portfolio of courses that they've been on throughout that as well. I think that gives them the flexibility.
Yeah, we've got Singapore in the chat's just said structured sometimes means putting everyone in a class on the same box, but sometimes the learning preference of those people varies. Yep.
Agreed. Yeah. Look, there's again an advantage of putting everybody together in a classroom that can help. I've seen some real successes where if you're doing like a introduction of a new way of working or something like that, hearing the same message at the same time, bringing a cohort through a learning journey together can be valuable, and it can actually start to kick off a new team. You can start teaching about new things, bring them together, they start to form relationships. So it could actually be really valuable for kicking off, like I say, new teams and things like that. But I hear what's being said there. The different learning styles have got to be met, because if you put everyone through exactly the same thing, and that's why I like to have that blend of different learning. So the learner led, give people that space to try and read things, learn things themselves. The classroom stuff where they can ask instructors, and then the on the job stuff. It's about making sure you're giving those options to the people, but not saying you must do all of these things. Do you know what I mean? I'll give you an example. It's all very well and good us saying there's real value in all of this learner-led learning. And my experience is, having given that to organizations and saying, right, go away and do some learner-led learning, and then come back and we'll do some classwork. I think 25% of people do the work themselves.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put all of my eggs into that learner-led basket, because
think-
not everyone's interested in doing it.
Alex, I was going to say, I think Barry's comment in the chat is really relevant here. It's hearing what other people have thought of a book or a course, and having that discussion as a group really takes that the 25% of people who did their homework, who read the book, but then they can bring it into the discussion and they can give their insights to the class, can be a really good way of trying to bridge that as well. Because I agree, we ask people to do the pre-work, doesn't mean they do it.
No.
I think there's a few people agreeing with me there. There's a few nods happening.
And I'll be honest, I've seen organizations thinking, right, if we can get everyone to do learner-led learning, it's going to save us money. But it doesn't, for the reasons you just said. Not everyone wants to do that, because they've got different learning styles, and that workshop, instructor-led, is still probably the prime way of learning. I think we've just got to change from how we used to do 2-day classes to smaller workshops and make it more bite-sized. What I would though add is that having that learner-led content could be an awesome reference for people after the class. So they can come to the workshop, they can learn about it, and then they can go and reference it after the class as well.
Yeah, and there's some other thoughts in the chat. Maybe a pathway is more like of a set menu where you can pick and choose your dish, and given people with different preferences choice with a push-pull model, and supplementing with coaching and mentoring. Yeah.
Sometimes we refer to like the I don't know if the term translates for everybody. We use the Chinese menu analogy, where you've got a big book of all of these different learning things, and you pick the ones that you like. And there might be some set courses that you take people through, some core learning, but then people can top it up with their own choices. I like that mindset. Yeah.
And Rob's even said that you could maybe use AI to help suggest new learnings and make those connections between the nodes, as you mentioned, Alex, so that, and even connect people. So if they've got their various interests, find a way to help them find each other in an organization.
Yeah, love it. The thing you'll have is an internal LLM just in your environment, because you would want to create that information data to yourselves, I guess.
Right. So are there any other questions in the room for Sam and Alex here from what you've heard, or just anything about learning?
You can quiz us as hard as you'd like. Alex is now awake enough to go for it. Thank you, Wei Ling.
Thank you.
You should be able to unmute yourself. You can't unmute? Oh.
Is that me?
Yep. Oh, you unmuted and then you muted yourself again.
I muted Barry. Sorry, everyone.
Can you unmute yourself, Barry? Erin won't mute you, I promise.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Step away from the control panel.
Okay, hands off. My question is, how do you encourage, companies to make time for learning? How do you encourage companies to make time for learning? after courses for people to really embed that learning? How do you encourage them to have that time to follow up on other things and do a bit of experimentation and kind of like, get those learnings embedded and try new things after the courses or whatever they were learning at the time? How do you go about doing that?
Good question. For a start, I'd try and explain to them some of this learning mindset that we've just been through and the value of that on-the-job learning and giving people the sort of the space and time to try things out. Wei Ling also, she called out the value of coaching and mentoring. So supporting this learning, you want to have the ability for people to be coached and mentored. And it's kind of like my view that actually the real purpose of coaching is to help people learn, right? If you look at the sort of the textbook definition of a coach, it's getting people to figure out their own objectives and then figuring out their own ways of achieving those objectives. So for me, it's about blending the learning and the coaching and the mentoring together, and making sure that organizations are valuing that ongoing learning, that continuous learning mindset. I'll be honest, my recent conversations with organizations have been really quite positive in this sense. I do feel like, particularly the organizations we've been talking to lately, maybe some of the larger ones, do understand that this is the way to learn now, and do value that sort of support and coaching that people need.
One of the organizations that we're working with at the moment runs a leadership program with us, and they run it over 4 weeks. And then what they actually do is over the next 8 weeks, post that 4-week training program, they have one-on-one coaching sessions with a coach, and then they follow it up at the end with a half-day get-together of that cohort to come together, talk about how they've applied it, do some exercises, see what problems they're having or what's been working well for them. So they're really structuring it. It becomes about a 3-month program for them. So they have sort of the dedicated learning up front, followed by coaching, encouraging them to apply it. They have a Teams community internally where they can share information and check in with each other. And then they have that close at the end as well. So there are people doing it, and it can be a really powerful way of actually trying to get beyond that 10% of what you hear in the classroom.
So it sounds like you got that network connected, right?
Yeah. And
Thanks.
I think you need to have the enterprise support, because if you ask people to do it by themselves, it's very hard. You need to have the organization encouraging them to do it. Thanks, Rob.
Dear Rob. Yeah, I was just saying else that was going through my mind there as well. For large organizations, it was mentioned earlier on in the chat, being able to measure the success and demonstrate the value of learning as well. And that might be through sort of pre-learning, post-learning assessments, things like employee satisfaction. Do you feel like you've got the right skills to do your job? And that kind of demonstrates some sort of short-term progress. But maybe then ultimately what you should be thinking about, and building this up again with coaching and mentoring as well, are we improving our way of working to enable us to deliver our value to our customers more effectively and efficiently? And there's absolutely metrics you can put around your services and your products. Are we improving our customer lead time? Are we improving customer satisfaction? They're the ultimate goals, aren't they? That's what we want to get to. Of course, there's lots in your environments that could affect that, not just learning. But yeah, so being able to put some assessments, metrics around this as well to demonstrate progress could be valuable for those larger organizations. And something somebody mentioned earlier on, sorry, I'm going off on one now, aren't I? The cost effectiveness as well, by having a centralized learning solution that everybody can dip in and out of. Hopefully that becomes more cost effective than having to say, right, we need to send this group of 20 people on a 2-day class. They'll go away, learn something, and not get the value out of it. So hopefully just a modern learning solution. It's more cost effective. You get more return on investment. People are valuing it, that you know, increases your retention and your attraction. They're my thoughts. I've probably gone off on one, sorry.
Okay, very. Does
Thank
anyone
you.
else have any questions, comments, anything you thought, oh, I want to try that myself?
Hello.
Yeah, go Gordon.
Yeah, actually, you're gonna find this funny. Actually, I don't want to say this, but you're gonna laugh your heads off. I tell you this. My dad he's retired from Air Canada. He just retired back in 2001, just before 9/11 happened. And long story short, my dad's not good at computer technology. That's why I'm taking a computer course for university in Alberta and online. And my dad has no idea how to format, document, all this stuff, which I'm taking right now because I'm relearning stuff from 10 years ago. I'm just catch up on new stuff now. And my dad just learned something yesterday. I just laughed my head off. I was just laughing so hard. He just never heard of it. He's never heard of podcasting. Yeah, he's never heard of podcasting. He's never heard like people. I told him like, This American Life or NPR, and he's never heard of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is around the world. This is happening around you. And just long story short, just before coming down to this meeting, trying to learn new things. Cause I learn by myself every time I learn something, because I do all my courses on YouTube, my computer course on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube, of course. My dad, I put 2 and 2 together, did the math in my head, 2 and 2 together. My dad's sitting there on his phone, and he's going on YouTube on TV, and he asked me a question because he's bought a new phone, Apple phone, and he asked me, "Oh, can you fix my phone for me?" And I said to my dad, "I'm sorry, I can't. I'm going on a conference call in Australia." And my dad said, "Well, can you fix it for me?" And I said to him, "No, I can't." And I said to him, "You're on the TV. Go on YouTube, type it in, and don't ask me dumb questions."
I think that's a sentiment I know. Well, Erin and I both share with our parents and being tech support. So I don't know. I think it's a fairly universal thing that parents come to their kids for tech support. But then when you
here's
get to the stage, it reverses, right? And now you go to your own kids.
Yeah, here's the thing. Before I did my computer course, I did storytelling about film and theater and podcasting. I compared old stuff to new stuff. And here's the thing, with the war in Ukraine going on, with Russia and Ukraine war going on, and my dad and mom are watching some on TV about the war and all that stuff. And I find it very boring. It's like a soap opera. I just walk out of the room. I just grab a snack in the pantry and just walk out. I don't want to hear all this stuff all the time. And long story short, my dad's watching this person who's in I think Ukraine or somewhere, and some other country border, and my dad says, what's this guy doing talking on a microphone like this? And I said to my dad, "That's podcast. You never heard about that before? You watched a person on TV about the war, and you're learning about this." And he says to me, "That's podcasting?" I'm like, yeah.
Interesting, isn't it? You say you taught your dad to learn how to fix his phone by watching YouTube. I'm convinced that's how my kids learn everything. They do things, and how did you figure out how to do it? I just looked it up on YouTube. Then their natural thing is to be able to go and search for something, and maybe that's how, like in organizations, bringing it all back to learning that AI things might be able to help us inside organizations. I'll just ask, the Cprime AI how to do X, Y, Z, and it will tell you. Maybe create a video for you automatically.
Yeah, Lisa,
Yep.
do you ask your question?
More of a comment, but yeah, the whole AI conversation that we always joke in my team about asking our AI team member. So ChatGPT definitely gets a run. No, I just wanted to say, great to meet you, Alex, Sam, and Aaron. Thank you very much, and the rest of the group. I really enjoyed kind of that discover, practice, apply, and then the toolkit. I'm a delivery coach for a large digital team, and there's one of me to 350 people. So really getting that down right is really good. The discover, the practice is something that I've been working on. But then the toolkit we've got, but what I haven't been doing is the apply. Have the teams go practice, come back to our drop-in sessions and feedback, or come back to the community practice and feedback. So thank you so much. I mean, even just that little nugget has just given me something to go and try out. So I just want to say thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. I was
Great,
actually having a conversation at lunch today about that exact thing. So we're meeting with one of our partners, and we were talking to them about the idea of giving assignments to people. So you talk about maybe how do you create a high performing team in the training, and then you give them an assignment or two to go away and try actually in their team. They do it, and then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, whatever it might be, you check in and you say, hey, have you tried this? How did it go? Did it work for you? Do you need to try something else? And give them feedback on what they did as well, as really a great way to embed the learning in. So we were actually talking about that at lunch.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Lisa. So thank you all again for your time. It's been really great to share these insights with you all and have this really important discussion for, where we think learning is going in future. We have a very special offer that we want to share with everyone on the call today, and for people who have subscribed to get the recording of the meetup today. And we're offering a 10% discount on our Cprime Elabor8 Academy private training courses up until June this year. It does exclude implementing SAFE, little disclaimer. But if you'd like to take advantage of the offer or want to talk to us about any learning needs that you or your team has, please reach out to us. And if you mention this code, reaching out to us via email, then we can have a chat and hopefully get on board to support your team's learning needs. So thanks everyone.